sorry, but this area is for riding it.
Bloody hell, Ringo, don't go frickin' changing the reels in the middle of a tape. Ah, frick. Don't be a frickin' Ringo. Shut up, Ringo. I probably would have recorded this like 3 hours ago if I didn't have a bunch of things getting in my way. How did that pill just change mid-air, mid-throw? Robin didn't have the right suit to be able to pull off what I have to do next in this, the athletic suit. At least I hope that there isn't a different problem to why I wasn't able to get that done. I don't know how to get up there. That's disgusting. Virginetic. Okay. Final. No. Yeah. Nah. I don't know why I spent so long on this boss fight.
Back computer. Residual radiation.
Radiation consistent with energy signature of U.S. Defense Department project JSG-Development at LexCorp.
The next level is like
I think
this.
we know who
really,
broke Joker out of prison.
Is like the Ace Lab Chemicals
What would an
level,
upstanding presidential candidate
or whatever,
like
and
Lex
it's
Luthor
like
want with the
extremely
Joker?
long.
I've heard that Lex Luthor may
For
not
some
be
reason,
so
I don't know why, but like
You might want to tell somebody. Election
that
day
level is just
tomorrow.
so egregiously
there's been a break-in in
stretched
Ace
out.
Chemicals.
It's like
Wouldn't be
40
surprised.
minutes
That
or
was
something,
Joker's first stop.
just to get through the whole thing. If you're not speed running it. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to be able to complete the next level in this game. And I think I saw some list, and I think this was like, it was the Ace Chemicals lab level was considered one of the worst. I'm kind of tired right now, and I really wanted to push out another one of these videos since I haven't been doing as many Let's Plays as I wish. I think maybe I've just been stretching too rigorously of a schedule for myself.
I've taken the liberty of activating the Bat Computer remote terminal, sir.
Okay. Come on, just let me move.
Remote tie-in.
Yeah, one thing that this game has that I'm actually is like a kind of outdated thing in video games, but I'm surprised that I saw it this recently. One of those moments kind of happened with Truth or Square, the game.
You try to get rid of me.
Captain Boomerang. Oh yeah, so this is like kind of introducing us to the whole thing of like fighting certain enemies and then unlocking them.
What can I do
I
for you?
think I'll just unlock that enemy. No, what I didn't
What
ask
can I
for
do
any
for you?
services from you. Hey, Alfred, I didn't ask anything of you. Where are you doing? Okay. Come on. Yeah, what did I do to get like the fast run that Robin was doing? Okay, finally I get to fight freaking Captain.
You try to get rid of me.
We don't need that. We don't need the intro thing again. Yeah, Captain Boomerang. I think like one of the lamer super villains. Okay. I'm definitely going to have a lot of fun, like just kind of exploring around Gotham. I feel like that this game is like one of the better open worlds in LEGO games. Okay, so I guess I'm supposed to target this guy with my battering. I'm sorry, I'm rusty at the combat. Yeah, one thing with LEGO games is that like the combat is super easy. I just have a problem of like I'm usually not that good at it just because of the fact that the animations of the punching and the attacks are so slow. So I'm like expecting to have already thrown a bunch of punches, because usually whenever I want to get through a combat encounter quickly, I just like spam the attack button. I'm just like, and then I like get impressed like Yay! You press a bunch of buttons really fast because I'm not used to actually doing that kind of stuff. But then like you just see like I press the button like what 20 times and you just get to see your character like only do 5 attacks just because the animations are so slow. And I guess I'm more used to like I wonder what game would even have attack animations there that fast. They're as fast as I'm actually pressing the buttons. I don't know. I guess I'm too. I guess probably like the Mario games and stuff, and, like SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. Which, by the way, what is like Battle? What is Battle for Bikini Bottom? Like the Mario games have much faster attack animations that like don't take as long to execute. Yet you run into like a lot less enemies in those games because like in the Lego games, since the enemies are super easy to take out and there's not that much strategy with them, you just kind of go ham. On the X button, they usually throw hundreds of enemies at you. The screen might actually be too dark. Like I can see, but I bet my audience would be complaining about it during these darker parts. So. Also, I really hate whichever psychopath actually turned off the music, or whichever psychopath would do it, because I don't know anyone. Yeah, just balance out the audio levels, make sure that my voice is one of the loudest elements, especially because I think my voice was kind of quiet in these, which usually now I've kind of learned to not take my voice being quiet is like a sign of anything bad because of the fact that for some reason like out of all of the YouTube videos that I watch, out of every one of them, mine are always the loudest just on my voice clips alone. Like they're always like so ear-bleedingly loud, and then because I don't think through my computer speakers I don't think you're gonna end up getting an accurate estimation of like how loud they're gonna be through headphones. Especially whenever it was even worse whenever I put the microphone too close to my face. Okay. Yeah, the thing is that I'm like garbage at driving in Lego games. I think the cars in like GTA have better controls and whatever for the cars. But like with Lego games, the controls are just like kind of a bit finicky and wonky and weird. So yeah, they're like, so it's pretty hard to drive like the Lego cars. I don't know, I should play GTA at one point as a Let's Play. The only thing is that it's like so overdone. Also, I was just going along in the Batmobile. Is Robin just like kind of following me on foot? Yeah, so I should let's play GTA. But actually with the first game, I guess we would have to do like some kind of censorship or whatever. With this stuff, like I'm okay with like leaving uncensored like the mild swears in like the Batman Arkham games. But like with GTA, I would probably employ some censorship in there, which would mean I would actually have to edit my Let's Plays before I upload them. Oh wait, I was supposed to go straight, yeah. I probably shouldn't be that fast navigating around in the cars. That much. The thing about like the early Forest Fire Lego Batman animations, they're like kind of, I shouldn't say something that long, but they're like, they're pretty cool. They're pretty edgy. There are like a lot of the edgy jokes and whatever, and that kind of stuff, which I didn't really like as a kid, but like I'm okay with. It was about like Forest Fire's early videos. For some reason, there's like this big thing of the whole like abuse of Robin in the videos. Where basically like Robin is basically essentially the Meg of this Batman stuff, because you know it isn't really like an action-focused Batman series. It's more of like kind of a comedy thing. It's almost like Teen Titans Go, where it's just like they're not even being superheroes. Admittedly, there's more like action scenes in those animations than Teen Titans Go, so at least that's a plus. And the action scenes are always kind of out of character with Batman, because he usually like ends up brutally murdering his enemies, like ripping out their spines and stuff in battle, and just like killing them every time or whatever, which of course is very out of character for Batman, but like it's supposed to be, I guess, like more of a satirical show about Batman. It kind of reminds me of like almost it's not as bad as this, but like it kind of reminds me of like All-Star Batman and Robin, which is a comic series that I want to kind of talk about a lot more at some point. But like All-Star Batman and Robin had the whole thing of like Batman just being uncharacteristically abusive to Robin, and it was just like kind of really. It was just like kind of really bad and whatever. It was just very out of character. Batman was out of character. I think like he wasn't really Batman. He was just more of like Crazy Steve, which is, by the way, a joke that I completely stole from Link Karaoke. Yeah, like basically the storyline goes that Crazy Steve got a hold of a Batman. Like a Batman suit, and got a hold of like all of his gadgets and whatever in the Batcave and stuff. So then Crazy Steve decides to go and like goes out to some carnival or something and saves like Dick Grayson, age 12, from like the circus after his parents were killed, and then he proceeds to berate and insult and call Jason and call Dick Grayson retarded. Yeah, not Jason Todd. And then he basically is just overall abusive to Robin. Or no, I should say Dick Grayson, age 12, because they always refer to him as that, like Dick Grayson, age 12. Like his age is actually important or something, or impressive. Yeah, I know it's impressive, like someone could be Robin at that young of an age, but it's really like more of kind of child endangerment, like bad parenting. Realistically, the concept of like a Batman having a Robin sidekick and having to be like age 12 is like very iffy, especially because Batman like didn't fill out any adoption papers or anything. At least I think he didn't in most iterations of Batman, and he just like kind of got a hold of this random 12-year-old kid and is now setting him to fight against like a bunch of various criminals constantly, and like just psychopaths and murderers, and take them down. And he's like actually good at it, but it's really like kind of iffy and whatever, you know. That's probably why the Christopher Nolan Batman films didn't go with the whole thing of having a Robin, because you know it's just kind of like a bit unrealistic and whatever. It's just kind of, you couldn't really do that without sending unfortunate implications. And of course, the whole thing with the Christopher Nolan movies, where they're trying to be as realistic as possible. with Batman and do a realistic depiction, especially the whole thing of Batman's career not in fighting crime, like not lasting very long. But like, that's the thing, because realistically, someone being Batman, they probably couldn't do the role for like more than 3 years or anything without. It was, yeah, I went on a big long tangent, but it was probably the best commentary yet in the video. Frick. Of course it had filled up with freaking that. Now I'm squirting out toxic goo. Well, I do at least like the fact that because I played this a lot for some reason last October. I don't know. I guess to like grind out the mini kits or whatever, and get like all the collectibles in this level, which is really hard just because of the major length of the level and the fact that I think a lot of the mini kits in like higher level pretty much memorized. Which is really good because this is one of the longer, more tedious, and less entertaining levels to watch me play. So, you know, that's a very good thing. Anyways, yeah. Oh, wait. Batman videos. Early on, I kind of have, like, Robin essentially be the Meg. He like, owned all of the seasons of Family Guy, and I think was, like, a big fan of Family Guy. And stuff. So of course he kind of modeled it after Family Guy. Luckily he did this series a long time ago, so he modeled it after, you know, the good seasons of Family Guy. But it definitely does kind of have you know, that like kind of feeling of like an early kind of Comedy Central sitcom or whatever. This time just with Batman as the focus. So, by the way, fun fact of something that I figured out recently is that at one point Forest Fire actually appeared on Nick News with Linda Ellery. Yeah, remember like Nick News? Yeah, it was like it was like a terrible time for like 90s kids because like not I think it aired on like Wednesdays, but not only did they have to go to school, but all they could watch on TV that night was freaking Nick News. Now Nick News was like really bad because it was trying to like send the terrible message to kids that you should actually listen to popular news networks and that they actually have valuable information, which is clearly wrong. I'm not even just talking about Fox News for all the mouth breathers in the audience, but mouth breathers.
Pardon me, sir.
But yeah, like, Nick News at one point, I think around like 2008, which apparently, it started in the 90s, but apparently for some reason it didn't get canceled until like freaking 2015, sparing like all of the kids from, sparing like all of the freaking kids from having to watch it. You know, and having to be suffer through like this boringness, like a news show, disgusting. Yeah, but it's supposedly sometime around like 2008 or something. I think Nick News like did a thing where it was interviewing like Forest Fire is like a young kind of influencer or whatever on the internet. And like his whole Lego animations and whatever. And you know what? I think it was probably one of the better things on that show. You know, highlighting younger creators and kind of showing that, you know, kids can pull off stuff like this and do like shows like this. However, in the comments of like the clip, because I didn't watch this on TV. What do you think I actually watched Nick News? There's like the comments are just about like what the frick? They actually, Nick News actually had something with Forest Fire 101, but he makes edgy jokes in his videos. So he shouldn't be on Nick News, and it was just like kind of annoying because as long as they don't like show any mature, explicit content or whatever, I think it's perfectly fine for like kids to maybe eventually figure out it's too adult. I don't know. I was just flipping out, and then like this comment like kind of made me internally cringe. It was like, but it was like, that's like Disney supporting the nostalgia critic, and I think I just like cringed myself to death for some reason. I can't even explain a logical reason. I just kind of hated that comment. Personally, I'm not completely against it. I'm okay with like Nickelodeon somewhat endorsing edgier content or whatever. I don't think it was that bad, and at least it had some kind of edge to Nick News, and actually had some kind of moment where you could actually sit down and watch Nick News and actually get any kind of enjoyment out of it, and be able to just ignore the terrible message that the show is bringing the kids, like that what they mentioned earlier. I guess getting back to the animations, I think they're pretty good. I think some of the jokes like don't feel too edgy for me. Admittedly, like Forest Fire, he was a teenager whenever he did these things, which with that fact, I'm surprised they even made something as good, that even turned out as good as it did. Because of the fact that like usually teenagers are just like terrible people who put out garbage pieces of media. Like just absolute cancer. I would never check out a teen's YouTube channel usually, but I think like Forest Fire, despite having kind of a bit of that teenage edginess stink to some of his videos, he's still. I think the animations were still pretty good. They're pretty well animated. I do think some of the jokes, like again, it was based off earlier Family Guy, whenever it was actually good and not later Family Guy. Because like this series had like such a big chance of absolutely monumentally sucking, like from the Family Guy influenced, like the whole thing of Robin being the Meg, kind of like just absolutely like reminding me of one of the worst comic book storylines that Batman has ever been a part of. But I do think that the series is pretty good, and that it got a lot better over time as both its animation skills and its writing and Forest Fire's comedy just kept improving. Oh, this is getting Turkish. So since I stopped them with the whole Forest Fire thing or whatever, I do think this would be a good time to like I just touch upon like probably one of the easiest subjects to talk about, which would be like music that I've listened to and albums and like especially like if I just talk about what I listened to recently rather than specifically trying to talk about a certain. Okay, anyways, I guess here's your like weekly reminder that They Might Be Giants exists, and they're actually pretty decent. However, they're not nearly as good as how I thought they used to be, especially with me like discovering better and more musical acts. Okay. Whoa! Okay. I guess I died. I guess I did. I guess it's better to like aim the Robin sign at the thing. Yeah, why is this so hard to get? What? Why, Robin? Why? Come on, okay, fine. Why can't I just activate the switch? Is it not gonna let me do it until all the Nickelodeon slime is off of the switch? As far as I guess I'll just discuss They Might Be Giants albums in order. The first album, I would say, is like kind of a decent start to their career, but definitely not as good as their other stuff and what they would make right after that. This is basically like They Might Be Giants' whole peak in quality. It would probably be around like whenever Lincoln released in 1988 to up to John Henry in 1994. So that was kind of like the peak of the band's quality. And I think that like their first album, which is self-titled. For a second, I forgot that it was a self-titled. Yeah, it is. It is like basically, which is sometimes labeled the Pink album, which is kind of dumb because like really the Pink part of it only comes from the fact that they're subtitled, like they were self-titled, but they get their subtitle, the Color album, because it's literally just the band standing in front of a colored background. Or even it's not like the Beatles self-titled, where it's literally just the words the Beatles off-center on a completely white background. Which by the way, why did they make that the album? Why did they make that the album cover for like their longest album? That means that you'd be staring at like their worst and most minimalist Beatles album cover. Well, I wouldn't say worst, for like the longest amount of time. That album is like 30 tracks long or something. It's like insane. It's like a major double album. It's kind of just like an example of a band. Oh frick, I think I remember getting stuck on this area at one point. Okay, I hope it doesn't happen again.
Excuse me, sir.
Okay, it's just giving me the hints. But yeah, anyways, They Might Be Giants' first album just basically feels like a nerdier, if that's even possible, kind of like demo version of like what the band would eventually become. It's like kind of very simplified and has like a less complicated and less good sounding sound to it. Like kind of in the way of like it doesn't always feel like there's so much specific instruments being played on certain parts, as it's just like a kind of musical mush of like the They Might Be Giants sound, and whatever it kind of playing it, because They Might Be Giants is one of those bands where like you really have to listen just to remember what instruments are even playing. You more remember the sound of it more than just like what instruments they used and what kind of musical ideas or specific riffs and how it specifically sounded. You more kind of like remember and conceptualize the overall feel of the sound and the lyrics of that. Because The Imagery Giants is a band that's very much focused on lyrics with their like, weird and nonsensical lyrics, which I think is probably one of the strongest parts of the band. Really, it's just like the lyrics that get into some weird places. See, I wish I remembered how to progress and move in this level. Go forward. I hope, is this an actual good time that I can end? I'll end Mollusc lingers with its wandering eye.